Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name's Oliver King and this channel is all about how to make money from your art. And for me this includes things like stock photography, stock videography, and a little bit of graphic design as well. This week I wanted to share a couple tips on how to double your monthly earnings from stock photography sites like Shutterstock and Adobe Stock and Big Stock and all those other big guys. And this might seem like a bit of a lofty statement, but it's definitely doable. This past month I've been able to do a lot better than previous months just because I made a couple little tweaks. So I want to share a few of those little tactics with you, and hopefully you can use those and employ them in your own work in order to make more sales and to potentially double your earnings for the month. Now, why I say you can actually double your earnings for the month is that this was what happened to me. And again, I'm a beginner, so my portfolio is a little bit smaller, so doubling my monthly earnings is definitely a little bit more achievable than if you had, 5 or 10,000 photos up. But there's still tactics that you could use no matter what stage you're at with the development of your portfolio. So if you don't do some of these things, chances are you're probably leaving a little bit of money on the table. So hopefully I can give you a few of these tactics, and rather than continuously talking about them, let's jump right into them. And the first one is to always have at least one item in the pending category of your submissions. When you're submitting things, they go through the process of being either approved or rejected, and so you're kind of going through this period where you have your content in limbo while it's pending. And this is actually a good place for it to be because it means that you're regularly uploading content. So my challenge to you and my tip to you for this one is to always have something in your pending category. So always have a little piece of content that's in the stage between being approved or rejected. Now what this does for you is it allows you to be a bit more consistent with your upload pace. So I think it's challenging sometimes to always just think about doing it every single day. But when you can check quickly on your Shutterstock submissions page and you can see that you have something in pending, it means that you're actually putting the work in and that sort of a thing. I have the bad habit of always just checking my earnings and that sort of a thing, which is a good marker of your success, but the better marker of how successful you're going to be on a stock photography site is how regularly you upload things. And for me, this means that I should always have something in pending. I should always have something that's in the process of being submitted. So I always check this and I always make sure that something is in the process of being approved so that I can improve my portfolio and add to it. Now what this does more practically is it allows you to spread breadcrumbs out across the site. So breadcrumbs lead to bakeries, and when you're sprinkling these pictures out regularly, what you're basically doing is putting links across sites like Shutterstock for people to click on them and to see the rest of your portfolio. Every photo that you upload, every vector, every video that you put out there, it's a direct link to the rest of your content. So the more regularly you do this and the more fresh content that you produce, the more links are naturally going to be out there so people can click on them and find the rest of your work. So people aren't just searching for it via keyword, which isn't always the most effective or the most efficient way to attract people to the content that you're making. Now I know it can definitely be a struggle to constantly upload photos all the time or constantly upload videos, and so the next thing that I have for you, the next tip that I got for you, is to fight the war on multiple fronts. Now what I mean by that is that you should probably be uploading vectors, photos, and videos if you're able to. I found it difficult to be consistent until I finally learned how to create vectors on Adobe Illustrator and how to upload those. I find it much easier to create and upload vectors more regularly because I can do this from home. I don't have to go out and shoot on site anywhere. I don't have to go out and take pictures of people. I can create the content right from my own home. And so this has been a good way for me to be able to be more regular with my upload pace. Now I understand that a lot of work goes into photography. I know a lot that goes into videography, but if you're fighting the war on multiple fronts, your videos will advertise for your photos will advertise for your vectors, and your vectors will advertise for your videos. So what it is kind of one advertises for the other. A link to one of your videos is going to lead to the rest of your portfolio, so people will be able to see the photos that you've created and all the vectors that you've created or whatever you have on your site at that time. Now things like vectors, I know that can be a little bit daunting because you have to learn a whole new program and a whole new software, but actually it doesn't take as long as you might think. I've been able to start uploading and selling vectors relatively quickly, so I can show you some of the vectors that I created in the first place, which were obviously not very good. And then recently I've been able to create little icon sets that are a little bit more detailed. Obviously the things that I'm creating are a little less amateurish now, and I'm gradually improving with that. Now again, I'm not an expert, but I'm still uploading on the regular some of the good content that I'm actually producing. I don't know if all of it's good, but I'm getting it out into the marketplace, and then I'm going to let the market decide whether or not it actually has any value. But it also just helps me to produce content so that I'm sending out those little breadcrumbs and hopefully luring people into my bakery, which is the portfolio that I'm creating. creating. Now this is a really good thing too, because if you're shooting videos, if you're shooting pictures, if you're creating vectors, you're able to have a little bit more variety in the stock photography or the stock image game. Because if you're just doing one thing all the time, maybe you're the type of person who doesn't find that as interesting. So I like to do a lot of different things. I like to be creative in a lot of different ways. So I like to go out and shoot videos, and when I'm not interested in doing that, I want to do something a little bit more simple, I'll go out and shoot some photos. And if I'm at home and it's raining out, then I can still sit on my computer, create some vectors, and make a little bit of money on the side. So I like the fact that Shutterstock allows you to upload different types of content, because that means you can keep it interesting for yourself, have a little bit more variety in what you're doing, and it'll generally allow you to keep on track a little bit better. The next tip that I got for you is to emphasize the first 5 words of your title for when you're uploading photos and videos and that sort of a thing. Now, for a lot of search engines, they're going to take the first 5 words of your title pretty seriously. YouTube does this as well, and I know a lot of different sites will do this. They'll put a little bit more weight on the first few words that you're using in a title. So if you're uploading a picture of something, make sure that the thing it is a picture of is included in the first 5 words. I know that it's good to be descriptive because you'll have a few more keywords in there, but just make sure that when you're creating a title that you're actually placing emphasis on the first few words that are in your title. So those are going to be the ones that are a little bit more searchable. They'll carry a little bit more weight. Now the last thing that I got for you today is something that everybody has really been advising me to do, and that's to join sites like Adobe Stock, to do things like Big Stock, Pond 5, just to spread out your photos across as many platforms as you can conceivably do, or that you have time for. Now there's a lot of sites out there, there's a lot of good ones, and then there's a few ones that I'm less certain about. So yeah, just put your content into the places where you think it's going to sell the most. There's a lot of reputable ones out there. I mean, there's a lot of content on them already, so you're going to be in a sea of a lot of pictures and that sort of a thing. But if you're creating good content, it can definitely stand out in those areas. And since you've already created your picture or your vector or your video or whatever it is, it's better to put it across different platforms so that more people can license it, more people will have it available to them, because not everybody is using the one market that you're putting all of your eggs into. So you want to make sure that all of your content is spread across as many different markets as you can, and so multiple people can license it. So the upside to doing things like stock photography and that sort of a thing is that you actually own the picture, you're just licensing it to people, so you can put the same photo across different platforms, and you still own all of the rights to that photo, so you can, avoid all the legal trouble of, whatever problems might arise otherwise. You're not actually selling your pictures, you're just licensing them, and these sites are usually just licensing them for you, so you're not going to run into any problems of ownership and that sort of thing. One of the things that helped me do this process a little bit more efficiently was to create a document where I have a lot of keywords saved. I create content based around certain topics and that sort of a thing, so I'm frequently reusing my keywords. So a lot of the time it's good to actually have those in a separate folder or Word document or something like that, where you're putting your keywords aside, or you're thinking of titles for the future for your photos and that sort of a thing. So sometimes it pays to have a folder where you have all of that information easily accessible, so you don't have to always constantly recreate keywords and type that all in, because that can be pretty time consuming. So any way you can speed that process up is generally a good thing. Now I've recently started treating this whole thing more like a bit of a business and less like a hobby. So I'm putting a bit more time into the stock photography thing, I'm putting a little bit more effort into it, and hopefully I can grow and develop this a little bit more. I'm approaching the 1-year mark of when I first started doing stock photography, and I gotta say it's been a lot of fun. I still enjoy it. I probably enjoy it a lot more actually now that I've figured a few things out, and it's a little bit of a challenge as well. Recently I was watching another YouTuber who was talking about how he was able to get clients through his portfolio online, which was just a stock photography portfolio. So what I'm hoping to do in one of my next goals is to be able to create an actual face-to-face client relationship with somebody, so I can actually broaden the scope of my photography, broaden the scope of my videography and the graphic design thing. So what I'm hoping to do next is to not only do the stock photography thing, but also to create more actual clients where I would be working with them face-to-face. And the good thing about having a huge, massive online portfolio is it's allowed me to develop those skills, and it's also allowed me to create a portfolio that people can go ahead and look at, so they can see what work I've done in the past, so they can see whether or not they like my style and that sort of a thing. thing. It's a great way to hone your skills, and I hope you're having as much fun with the stock photography thing as I am, because I think it's just a great way to start earning extra money and to start thinking more about doing your photography a little bit more professionally. The other thing I just wanted to address before I ended this video is that the point of passive income strategies are generally to do a lot of work and then to kind of reap the benefits over time of the work that you've already done. Now, with things like YouTube, with things like Shutterstock and all that other stuff that I'm working on right now, I think the trend is definitely that you create a lot of content, and as you're creating a lot of content, your earnings tend to be a little bit higher, and if you just let it fall by the wayside, you tend to earn a little bit less. So it's not the ideal source of passive income all the time, but you always do kind of get those residual earnings here and there from content you created, for me, even 11 months ago. Some of that stuff is just starting to sell now. So I'm really interested in kind of taking this to the next level, seeing how far I can get it and seeing what I can do with my earnings if I get a little bit more strategic about it, and if I treat it a little bit more as a job as opposed to just a hobby. So that was just some food for thought for today. I'm really enjoying making these videos. I hope they're useful to you and they're not just me rambling to the camera for a really long time, but yeah, good luck with your stock photography. Thank you for the support on the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.